Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to today's video and welcome back to my channel. So I'm still recovering from losing my voice, so I hope that doesn't bother you. If it does, I'm sorry. I post videos every single day of the week, so I'm sure I will have another video that will interest you sometime this week, so I'll see you then. Anyways, today we are going to be doing a makeup and mystery, and we are going to be covering the case of Gianni Versace. Today is actually the day of my mom's doctor's appointment, so I'm going to film later on. It's 7:41 a.m. right now. Her appointment is 1:30. So I will probably end up keeping this makeup on until after that appointment. I decided I wanted to cover the case of Gianni Versace because for anybody that knows me, you know I have so much perfume, I don't need any more. But my top favorite perfume is Bright Crystal by Versace. And I used to buy the Dylan Blue perfume, or cologne, from Versace as well for Brandon when Brandon and I were together. So that is how I'm sure most people know the Versace brand nowadays, is through perfume, expensive perfume. I have so much perfume I haven't bought from Versace in for a while, like maybe a year. Because I think I paid like $70 for my last Versace perfume, and I'm like, I have too many perfumes, and I can't even close my perfume drawer. So that's when you know you have too many. Now, back in the day, it was a fashion brand. It was a high-end fashion brand, and I don't know if it actually still makes fashion anymore. Or at least, if it does, they're not at the heights that they were before. So anyways, Gianni Versace was actually born in Italy, and people say that he was the son of a famous dressmaker. I didn't find that. I actually found that he came from humble beginnings, and his mom was a dressmaker. And then when he got older, he went into college, but he just found he didn't like it and ended up moving to Milan to get into the fashion scene, and that is basically how the Versace brand started. The brand itself started because of Gianni Versace, his sister Donatella, I think was her name, Versace, and his brother Santo Versace, because I forgot his brother's name, so I had to double check before I started this video. All three of them created the Versace brand. And that is how the Versace brand came to be. Was from these three siblings. I'm using the Desert Sage palette today from Perfusion Cosmetics. This is only the second time I've used this. No, third time if you count my palette bingo, and I'm not counting the palette bingo. It's the second time. And it's honestly showing me that it is a very forgettable palette. So Gianni Versace ends up moving to South Beach, Florida, which has a very big gay community. It has a very big party scene. And he was just overall happy with his life. So he buys Casa Casarina, I think is how it's said, and turns it into what is now known as the Versace mansion. And that is, it's a waterfront mansion that he and his partner Antonio lived in. Antonio and him have been together for like 10 years. I think that, I mean, as long as Gianni Versace was happy, he had a right to live his life the way he wanted to. And it's actually known that he was actually like really big in their community in South Beach, Florida. Like he would apparently like go around the neighborhood and do things without his bodyguards, kind of like Prince. Prince would go around his neighborhood and he'd pay his bills like a regular person. Like that's kind of like what Versace was too. There was this cafe that sold newspapers from around the world, and Gianni Versace went in every single day, and he would get the Italian one because he was from Italy, so he wanted to see what was going on. So he would go in every single day to this little cafe, and he would get this newspaper, and then he'd go back to his house. And he was just walking. He didn't have a bodyguard, like I said, didn't really have a need to. So Gianni Versace does this like any other regular day. walks back to his house, and just as he's about to unlock the gate, somebody comes up behind him and shoots him twice in the head at point blank range. So if you don't know what point blank range is, basically it's like, he had one that like went through his face, and then in the documentary I watched regarding this, he kind of like, it seemed like he turned, and then he got it kind of like through his neck, the second one. I mean, obviously, there was a woman that saw it happen, and she watched the shooter run. And Antonio and his neighbor, his name was Laszlo, had made plans to, I think it was play tennis the next day. So they were getting ready for their tennis match when they heard the shots outside the Versace mansion. So they go and they check it, and that's where they see Gianni Versace laying on the steps of the Versace mansion, bleeding. And Antonio bends down to check on Gianni Versace, obviously, and then tells Laszlo to go after the shooter because there was a woman that actually saw the shooter flee and was pointing in the direction he went. And they actually, in this documentary I watched, which I will link it below if I remember to, if not, make a comment and I'll link it because it's on YouTube. It's free. So they actually interviewed Versace's neighbor about this. And he says he did catch up with the shooter, and he told the shooter to stop. But the shooter turned and pointed his gun at him, and that's when Laszlo stopped chasing him. And then he went back to the Versace mansion to check on Gianni Versace. Obviously, 911 was called, and the police were called, and the ambulance, they pronounced Gianni Versace dead at the scene pretty much, but they did take him to the local hospital to try to resuscitate him, but it was to no avail. I mean, when you get shot in the head, your survival rate is pretty low, but when you get shot in the head twice, it's even less. I mean, can you imagine? So he was pronounced dead. And his funeral was so amazing. I mean, it was like they called it a star-studded funeral. Because, I mean, he had, like, people like Princess Diana come and stuff like that. It was amazing. Okay, so next is we're going to be talking about the shooter of Gianni Versace. Because he has a story in his own right. His name was Andrew Cunanan, and he was also a gay man, and he was pretty spoiled, honestly. I heard that, like, his parents gave him, like, the master bedroom growing up and stuff like that. Like, he was very, very spoiled. But his family wasn't rich by any means when he was growing up, but he just felt, like, entitled to the luxury, and he would basically live off of, like, rich men who were his sugar daddies. That's how he would live off of it, because from the interviews I saw of Andrew Cunanan's friends, they said that Andrew Cunanan actually kind of felt like he was owed this lifestyle. So, what I find amazing, and the documentary that I'm talking about, that if I remember I will link, covers it pretty well, that Andrew Cunanan actually was a serial killer before Gianni, and he was a well-known serial killer. Like, they were able to connect Andrew Cunanan to multiple murders throughout the country before he killed Gianni Versace and before he was even in Florida. Now, this is a case that I actually think the police kind of like dropped the ball on, because they had a suspicion that Andrew Cunanan would be in Florida and that would be where he struck next, but like somehow along the way, they weren't able to get the information from the FBI to the Florida police, and like the flyers were left in like a rookie FBI agent's car. So, but basically they weren't able to get the information to the police the way they should have been. And the police weren't as prepared as what they could have been. There were actually police officers that said we could have been more prepared. Had this happened, had we known that this was a possibility that it could happen, he was down here. And I mean, I'm sure Gianni Versace wouldn't be walking around with no bodyguards as if a serial killer was around. So the manhunt begins for Andrew Cunanan, because the police are pretty smart in this case. They were able to link Andrew Cunanan to Gianni Versace's murder pretty quickly. So Andrew Cunanan decides to pawn some coins that he had gotten off of, I believe it was his third victim named Lee, before he came down to Florida. And he used his actual address. But this kid is so lucky because the owner of the pawn shop was actually like away on vacation. So the police didn't have Andrew Cunanan's information until the owner got back and saw it and was like, oh my gosh, because he was watching the case and contacted the police. So the police now have the information of Andrew Cunanan because he used his real address at the hotel and his passport, everything. So they go to the hotel that it says that Andrew Cunanan is staying at. And they had literally just missed him. And at that same time, the police, 911, gets a call from a 911 call stating that somebody had broken into one of the houseboats on the water. So police go and investigate that, and lo and behold, it's Andrew Cunanan. He had broken into the houseboat and taken his own life. I actually am on the side with a lot of other people where I think that Andrew Cunanan was planning to take his own life this whole time. And that's why he was kind of like sloppy the way he was, but he was really lucky. Yeah, you can chalk this up to shitty police work, but he was really lucky too. We actually don't know why Andrew Cunanan killed Gianni Versace, really, because he killed himself before police could interrogate him, so we don't know the official reason. Although it is speculated that Andrew Cunanan had met Versace a few months earlier and felt snubbed by Gianni Versace and was a little jealous of Gianni Versace because the life Gianni Versace had, Andrew Cunanan felt he deserved. I actually think that Andrew Cunanan might have been snubbed by Gianni Versace and felt that he shouldn't snub him because he deserved that lifestyle, basically. I think something like that. But we will never ever know the real reason, which sucks. Because I believe that the Versace family does deserve to know. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Versace is a very high-end brand, but I don't think it's ever at the height that it was when Gianni Versace was alive. Is that so? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye guys.